Max, how are you feeling with your blister?
Obviously, happened yesterday, still early, but, definitely going in the right direction. Definitely feel like it's getting better.
There's a report that you reached out to Skubal. Just how did that conversation go?
I saw that today. Basically, it was kind of just told that it was, I was in consideration to start the game, and, had kind of heard from, just heard that from this person to that person to the next of what he, had said or conveyed or whatever it is, and instead of just playing phone tag, I just figured it would be way more streamlined if I just kind of just reached out and talked to him and explained what was going on from my end or what I understood, and just kind of wanted to hear him out. But I think it was just more of just streamlining communication more than anything.
Did he voice that he wanted to get that started?
Yeah. No, it was it was just a very candid conversation of, hey, I know this is something that's right now hasn't been decided, but I feel like from my end, I felt like if he wanted to start the game, he deserved to do it, and was full support, and just out of respect for everyone in the situation, especially people that would replace me, knowing that hopefully Carlos was going to be able to replace me, to be able to let everyone know that I wasn't going to be available if I wasn't going to start, then just to be able to do that and try to get ahead of it, to give people the time to get their plans together and stuff to that extent.
How would you assess the first half of your first season with the Yankees?
So far so good. We still have a long way to go and a lot that we want to accomplish, but it's been a good start, but you want to be able to finish strong.
With where your fingers at, do you expect to be able to start this coming weekend?
I said yesterday where it's too early to tell. I would say it's still pretty early. We fortunate enough to be able to have the break to have a couple more days to see how things heal, but doing everything I can to get back as soon as possible, and hopefully not miss time.
Back-to-back days where the offense is struggling against a good starting pitcher. What made Imanaga so difficult?
Yeah, again, real efficient, ahead of us a lot, but kind of that back and forth. The change splitter, coupled with locating the fastball, he used them both, similar to Boyd. Boyd did that to us. He'd kind of slow you down and then pop you. Mix in the sweeper a little bit too. But we just, like yesterday with Boyd, I thought we were squaring some balls up and things like that. Today, not as much. G hits the big homer, obviously, but in and around that, he kind of had his way today.
What did you see with Hamilton's slider on that pitch to Swanson?
Yeah, just hung up. Yeah.
With Warren, What do you take away from a young pitcher battling like that?
Yeah, and I told him as much even coming out. That's a day where, they had a lot of good at-bats against it. It wasn't necessarily his best, didn't have his best command, but kind of navigated it. And that's what the good ones do. When they're not, necessarily at their best, they're still able to find a way. We got some fortunate where a couple balls, they got good swings off, stayed in the ballpark. But, I thought he didn't give in. He didn't buckle when he was in trouble, a handful of times there. So one of those outings where you kind of navigate, especially against a really good offense, where you don't have your best, hopefully that's another, growth moment for Will.
That play with Volpe that was overturned in the eighth, what did you see with how he fielded the ball?
Yeah, obviously if you go get it, but, as a shortstop, you got to have the freedom to try and get yourself the best hop, and then, Jazz probably has turned into a first baseman there where we're stretching because obviously it's the third out. So, and then a good job by Swanson of just getting his butt to the bag.
Why do you feel like he might be playing back on some of those balls recently?
I don't know. I think he does that from time to time where you're just trying to create the best possible hop. You're always as an infielder, and especially in the middle, you're trying to get yourself a short hop or a long hop. So you play with that's where the feet are so important. like great infielders usually have great feet more than they have even great hands, because you're creating hops all the time.
Bill?
Aaron, as you go into the second half, what improvements do you want to see from this team?
Yeah. Look, I think there's across the board improvements to be. We never stop feeling like we can be a little bit better, and that's individually, but certainly as a team as well. Obviously, we've had a little bit of attrition here and gotten a little bit short in the pen, the last few weeks, and that's been a little bit of challenge, especially as we went through a long stretch of a lot of games and whatever it was, 26 out of 27, where kind of playing catch up with the pen a lot. And then a couple key guys down. So got to make sure we shore that up and continue to get guys in good roles down there. I feel like we have the makings of a good defensive club, but we got to be tighter in that area too. And then just you're always fighting for that consistency offensively. I think on balance we've had an outstanding offense, to this point. But that doesn't mean we can't be better.
Who else? Dan?
On that seventh inning play, the grounder up the middle by Crow Armstrong, anything you would have liked to have seen differently there?
I mean, really, obviously with him getting down the line, he's got to get it out. So it's a good play to get to it and get the ball in the air. The only thing, maybe Goldie can throw it blindly, but then, he's got to get to the ball, and you want to pick up the runner. You don't want to just toss it in if no one's there. So that's the only thing you could possibly say. Just a good job of them of taking advantage of a slowly developing play that we didn't finish.
Joel?
Mm-hmm. No, because if it's online, he's out. So, no. No.